Hello there, gentle people, and welcome back to another episode of the It's Not Always Dark podcast. The category is Drag Race, UK edition. I'm Kieran.
And I'm Erin. And today we are talking all things Drag Race UK. How exciting.
So exciting. We're doing a lovely mid-season recap today. Episode 5 just aired last night, so here we are.
We're halfway
ready
there.
To get our opinions out there.
We're living on a prayer. We're just ready to go. For the people at home, Kieran, that maybe aren't familiar with Drag Race, we don't mean racing cars.
Yes.
We mean
not at all.
Racing drag queens.
Yes. To basically give a brief summary of what Drag Race is. Drag Race is a reality television competition program that has its origins in the United States, where famous longtime drag queen RuPaul Andre Charles, one of the most successful drag... Yeah, like you're getting the full, the full government name. Yeah, so RuPaul... Huge famous drag queen over in America, eventually launched a show that makes way for each season for America's Next Drag Superstar. But of course, we had our first series, I think when did it come out? 2019?
Yeah, 2019.
I think, 2019 was the first season, and it did really well. The ratings were huge on BBC Three. Yeah. So for the UK version, it came out 2019. The ratings were really great on BBC Three, and it was only about time before, they did another season. The competition, essentially, it's about who's the most well-rounded entertainer that presents themselves in drag styling. So you have to be a great singer, dancer, actress. You have to have great fashion. You've got to have good makeup, your hair, like everything matters on this competition. They call it the Olympics of drag because it really is. And
it's overwhelming to even think about. Like, I started to think about it earlier today because we were doing the episode, and I was like, I don't even know how you go about beginning to acquire such a wide skill set. It's amazing what these people can do.
Oh, totally. And there's a huge emphasis placed on comedy. I think that's one of the main things about the show is that it's meant to be, looking into what gay culture is and being embraced in with the comedy side of it, where it's very lighthearted and fun while still talking about some serious issues that affect the LGBT community.
Generally, we get deep workroom chats when they're getting ready, and that's
sometimes provoked by producers, other times naturally comes up.
But it is I think
there's some setups.
It's awesome because Drag Race has such a wide audience, generally, in terms of it is one of the gayest things to be on mainstream TV, especially on the UK.
Yeah.
Totally. And to have these things discussed and for people at home to be able to see that and access it and relate to it, I think's pretty awesome. Drag Race isn't without its faults.
Oh, of course, but everything has a fault if you try and look too hard at it. I'd say one of the best things I think about the UK seasons is that I've heard about more of the we'll go by the hets in this situation. I say that lovingly. Some of the hets, short for heterosexuals, they've taken Drag Race UK and they really like it. And I know of a lot of I think there's a constant belief that sometimes there's this belief that straight men have a hard time accepting drag for what it is, but I'd say times have been changing because I have spoke to many straight men that watch Drag Race and enjoy it, and it's very fascinating to see them also get behind these queer performers and root for a winner. It's really fascinating considering I don't know if I could have seen that being the case 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I think there's a stark difference in the humour of the UK Drag Race versus the American one just because of the culture difference but
there's a huge culture difference for sure.
They both have their own charms. There's a reason to love both, but I personally just
totally.
UK Drag Race.
The UK
I find myself laughing so much.
So often.
So often. So just to like establish what a pared down basic Drag Race episode looks like. We come into the season, okay? Episode 1's a bit different. We're introduced to 12 queens. Generally 12 queens, right?
Yes. Yeah, the first season they only did 10 to test it out, but 12 was for the second season because they saw that
I feel like we just, like, season 1 of
ratings.
Drag Race, we, like, pretend we don't see sometimes. Especially the American one, we just, like... They were doing a lot on not a big budget.
No, but that's the beauty about it. It was just that drag has not got to be expensive and flashy all the time. I think it's just about having that raw talent there. And the UK, the first season, the way that they had that humour, that's what really got the show at second season.
The UK first season was hilarious. I meant the American one. But
I misunderstood. Yeah, no, the first season of well, this is the thing. It was the very first season. They had a really awful filter on the camera. Like, they were doing a lot of stuff to try and make Drag Race what it could be.
Basic Drag Race episode format. Episode 1's a bit different. We have the 12 queens, and they enter the workroom in a very personalised, stylised look. They come in
usually
drag,
with a catchphrase.
With a statement.
They like to make a statement about who they are.
And it's always, like, amazing and awful and memorable. And it really sets the tone for the season. And then, but general episode format is we'll have a mini challenge, which will happen with RuPaul generally in the workroom. And then we have a maxi challenge, which could be anything. It could be a stage performance.
It often is anything.
It could be a scripted TV-ish type thing. It could be making up a club night. It could be like whatever the week is.
There's so many options. I think that the whole thing is
could be
that
Snatch Game.
The challenges are essentially just, some of them are mainstays in the series. Like the Snatch Game is just a play on words of the match game from old game show days. And then you have other challenges that are meant to just promote the work that the queens will then go to do outside of the show.
Yeah. So then we have our maxi challenges, which is like makes up like a bulk of the episode and is what they're mainly assessed on throughout.
Yes.
And then we have the runway category.
Yes, the runway. Yes, there is always a fun category assigned to the queens each week, and they will come out with their outfits, sometimes plural outfits. Maybe there'll be a ball.
I love a ball. But
love them.
Post runway, there will then be the elimination session where the two bottom queens will then have to lip sync against each other. There will be a winner.
Yeah,
they will be
crowned
head-to-head. Winner of the week. In the UK, they win a RuPeter badge, which I can't even remember what it does in the end, but they get to wear it for the series.
Basically, the one thing that's different about the UK series compared to the US and other iterations is that they're the only ones, I think, maybe including like Drag Race. Not Denmark. They did like a Danish version recently.
Did they?
Yeah, Drag Race.
I've only seen UK,
Holland.
Canada.
Drag Race Holland. Yeah, they did Drag Race Holland, which I think they're the only two series. UK and Holland are the only ones that haven't been given cash prizes for their wins.
Yeah.
So instead they get a RuPeter badge, which is like bragging rights. And usually in the US versions and other iterations, it's like $100,000 is the prize if you win the series. And in the UK, it's a Wow Presents TV series given to you, which, you know what, that's work for a queen after this pandemic. They are all fighting for that right now.
But then to be fair, everyone that came out of like the top 3 of series 1 of the UK Drag Race have made it into
more, though.
have pretty much become UK TV reality
they're
TV
often
like regulars.
In TV. I think that's something different about the UK version and the US is that the ones that have been on UK, like they've either appeared on TV and drag before, like, I mean, Ginny Lemon was on X Factor, Davina De Campo from season 1, she was on the 100 or something. It's like the
singing competition.
Yeah, the singing competition. But yeah, they seem to they go on to these shows as British entertainers and they're in drag, but they're not like a butt of the joke. They're kind of included in it anyway. Yeah. It's interesting comparatively to what's going on in the US. But anyway, we have discussed the format long enough. After the elimination, one queen goes home and we move on to the next episode.
Yeah.
Every week, yeah, until we have our like top 4 usually, top 3, top 4. Then we pick a winner. Okay.
So we are covering the first 5 episodes of series 2 in this podcast. Yes.
So let's just hop into episode 1.
Let's get cracking.
We're gonna go over our favorite entrances. I think immediately who comes to mind, none other than Bimini Bon Boulash.
It's the one that we have quoted to each other the most since the episode aired. Most. Yeah.
I'm vegan. Haha. Like, it's so absurd. She's taking the piss out of herself for being a vegan and for that being like part of her personality. But at the same time, like I've saw like stuff from her behind the scenes. She's very like a fitness girl. She goes out on her runs. Love that for her. Even the outfit has grown on me. I remember when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is interesting. You're doing stuff with like a stone bodysuit and a bit of pink vegan leather. But I think now that, you put it all in perspective, it's a big joke, innit?
I do think that her entrance look, being baby pink, like, didn't quite set me up for who she went on to be. Like,
yeah,
in a way that, like, she has this
misleading.
really rough and ready personality. But then you do see as episodes go on, she has these moments where she wears really, like, elegant, refined,
oh yeah,
like, ball gowns.
She has like a wide array of taste. Yeah, like, she has a lot going on for her, and I think that's the really exciting part about seeing someone like that on the show. Other standouts, of course, Lawrence Chaney walking into the workroom.
We love some Scottish representation.
The Loch Ness Monster, a legend.
Love that.
I think like we have like summarized it ourselves as she is Gary the Tank Commander meets Kevin Bridges meets Lorraine Kelly. Honestly, she's got a bit of Lorraine in her.
Yeah, I think any Scottish person on telly with a slightly West Coast accent.
That's Lawrence Chaney.
Oh, it's Lawrence Chaney.
That's just Lawrence Chaney. Isa. Isa from Still Game. Yeah. I still, if she doesn't pull out Isa for her Snatch Game, she's probably still going to kill it, but I would think that this would be a really great role for her.
Yeah, you really have set my hopes up high for that, and if it doesn't happen... No,
but she sounds so much like her. I'd be like, why wouldn't you? Did no one say this to you?
Yeah.
And then last, like, huge shout out for like an entrance quote would probably be
Mrs.
none other than Estina Mandela. Rude. I love it. It just has so much range.
The use of rude the same way that like bitch could be used to mean anything. Like
literally any context you use it in, it just works. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, not to give like a huge spoiler for what happens, but the fact that Estina uses it as both her entrance and her exit line.
A nice little bookend.
That's fun. Yeah. I like something that does like a full circle moment.
Continuity.
And so we get into the episode. I think, we're introduced to all the girls. They all get to know each other briefly before they go and do a Wimbledon-themed photo shoot.
Oh my goodness, no. Can we just talk about...
Wimbledon?
Yeah, Wimbledon. But I was going to say, like, Veronica going into the workroom and saying how big a fan she is of Bimini, and Bimini being like, I have no idea who you are, but thanks.
Never heard of you, babes. I think that was what set me up to think that Bimini was a different person than who she is.
Yeah.
Because that's just like a one-off line that she's clearly said, like, oh, I just didn't know who this girl was, but, I mean, thank you. She did say thanks.
Yeah, she did say thanks, but the confessional. Just so funny. So funny.
It is funny that she's like, oh, I know who you guys are. I know who everyone is. And I think that that's the interesting thing about Veronica, that she is, like, she seems to be, like, a bit of an underdog even from the get-go.
Yeah.
Just no one really knows who she is, and she's just got a lot to prove. But I think that sets her up nicely for what her arc is in the show.
Sorry, going on. Yeah, but
we get into Wimbledon. The photo shoot is just 2 members of the Brit crew with RuPaul and one of the queens. They start throwing regular sized tennis balls at them to pose amongst. And then to throw the queens off, they decide to start throwing in some real big tennis balls to get a reaction. Yeah. RuPaul, she likes a reaction at the queens. So
And that, like, the first photo shoot of any season is always something a bit just, like, throwaway and funny and ridiculous.
Just something to lighten the mood, break the ice a bit between the queens and RuPaul.
Yeah, there's something very, like, America's Next Top Model in the way that, like, they're set up to fail. And it's like, how do we make this fail photogenic? Or completely not photogenic,
Yeah, totally. In the end, Lawrence Chaney ends up winning the mini challenge. You know, I think that's a bit of the personality did some of that work because the photos weren't all amazing.
No, I mean, like,
I
no
will
one
say
was
this.
that
I remember
great.
being angry because the photos were. The photographer's meant to be like a world-renowned photographer, from what I could gather from the context given within the show, and yet the shots they were getting, like, if he'd stepped a bit closer, they would have just had the background, and yet he was taking photos of like a open set. I could not understand what was going on there.
Honestly,
I was
like, us going in and doing a better job.
Well, no, but I'm not even saying it like I could do a better job. I feel like that's like a basic thing that you think about is what is behind these people in the shot. And, like, sure, maybe they didn't have enough space, but I just didn't get it. I was annoyed. But we move on anyway to the main challenge of the week, which is to present 2 different looks on the runway, one of which being a gay British icon, and then the other being a hometown look, much like they did last season for their first runway.
Yeah, so we're just going to do a quick fire through the tops and bottoms of the week.
Yeah, we'll go through the tops and bottoms, because the other ones that are safe, they did well, and some of them have nice looks, but I think there is a reason they're safe, is that they've done like a middle of the road job, maybe slightly higher, but it can only be a few that you pick out in specific for the job they've done.
Our tops of the week were Estina Mandela. So Miss Estina came in here, gave us Naomi Campbell to the extent that we thought, is that her?
Yeah, I mean, she was doing a runway that I think was Naomi's return to, like, the House of Versace, however you want to say it. I think it was like her first collaboration with them inside the house.
House.
For like a good while. Yeah, like the HAUS, not the HOUSE.
Yeah.
So she came back and did that look, and I think Estina nailed the look. She looked
stunning,
just like her. I think the hair is the only thing I ever noticed with Estina and go, oh, I'm not sure if I love that hair, but that's being, nitpicky.
I know, but, like, you see that hair, you know that, like, because that is a Naomi slick back.
Yeah, it's a classic Naomi, like, she's slicked all the hair back into a pony and she's gone with it.
Yeah, and then her
East London look.
Yeah.
Get the London look.
She did, she got it.
I like it.
She there with her fried chicken,
They gave her shit for it being an ASOS jacket, but she still looked the best out of all the hometown looks, and that says something.
Like, if someone's wearing an ASOS jacket and, like, out walking you on the runway, like, that's a you problem.
You need to think about what's up with you on the runway. Ahura. She had a lot to say.
She did.
She did have a lot to say.
Ahura always has a lot to say, though.
She does, and we've. As you know, this is a mid-season recap, so as we get along, we start to see more sides of her. But to begin with, I remember thinking Ahura seems like the worst person. I was like, I don't know if I'd like to talk to her, and that's takes like a lot of effort, I think, from you to make someone want to not talk to you. Either way.
Otherwise, in the top,
other tops of the runway,
the lovely Lawrence Chaney.
Lawrence Chaney
Did Diana Rigg as the gay icon look.
Yeah, it's her. She gave like the Avengers outfit from Diana Rigg's past, and also we got a Charles Rennie Mackintosh inspired like stained glass dress with like a gorgeous red wig. I think it was a great look because there was 2 Scottish queens on the top this week, and I think we kind of all were worried, or at least I was, that they were going to come out in like a kilt and be like, well, you guys, you expected it. Because as much as that is an easy go-to, I think it's something that you don't necessarily want to perpetuate if you're going to do your own thing on the show.
But I think like both these looks, so this was like Lawrence's Charles Rennie Mackintosh, and then we'll go on to Ellie's Dennis the Menace look.
Oh, yes,
like latex, saucy Dennis the Menace.
Yes, he was from Dundee, I think. That's why she chose that look.
Yeah. really shows like a level of creativity that I think they've both carried on with their outfits throughout the show.
Like, I'd say so.
They're very sort of conceptual but delivering on the concepts.
Yes. No, I completely agree with you there. And I think that, I mean, so we'll go into Ellie Diamond. She chose to do Lily Savage. I think that it was okay. I think that she kind of did like a safe job in this perform. Like this look, it was just like a nice dress with a long sleeve and a wig.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't really see much else to know.
But the Dennis the Menace
I think it did look really nice.
Was sick.
Oh yeah, the Dennis the Menace look. I think the only unfortunate thing she had going for her was the fact that it was the same silhouette as her entrance look. But even then,
well, it's exact
not
same
all the judges saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that this Dennis the Menace look, slingshot included, knocked out of the park. I loved it.
Yeah. So on the other hand, in the bottom, we had both Joe Black and Bimini. So
we also had Sister, but the bottom two at least for the week.
Yeah, so our bottom two being the people that lip synced. Joe Black as the gay icon did David Bowie, like blue dress, orange hair, white chalky makeup with the big rosy cheeks, the blue eyeshadow. Yeah. You know the look. You know the one that I'm talking about.
You know exactly what the look was, and the fact that the judges didn't, I don't get it.
Yeah, that was more.
I don't get it.
But then
it felt like a personal attack on Joe.
I think that, as you've said before, that was sort of like their way of adding on to how much they hated the Brighton Pavilion look. Like,
which wasn't it?
No.
She looks like the panto, like mother of the house that's like scolding her child on. I don't know. She looks like she could be royalty.
It looks
but I wouldn't
very
say
like
she's the queen.
Someone about to give you a walking tour.
Yeah, very that. And I think
but like in a ball
the colours aren't the most flattering, especially because they're not even the matching colours of the pavilion. So I couldn't gather.
And I don't know what golden green means to Brighton. Maybe it does mean something, but it doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah. And then
I just think like she had Brighton and she didn't come out here giving us rainbows, and maybe that's the equivalent of the bagpipes of Brighton. I don't know.
Maybe. I think that her boy look to me, I thought would have like made her safe. So I remember being a bit surprised when she was in the bottom.
Yeah.
However, I do get it, and I think that of course, so we move on to Bimini. Bimini, she did her gay icon was Princess Julia, who, as far as I was able to gather from the story, Princess Julia is like a club scene like legend in London. So I think the look was cute. I like the idea of having this
much.
Like. It made me think of like, like the early days like pop punk. Like the British pop punk, like that's what it gave me with like the really harsh hairstyle, but like the fluffy shoe. I felt like that was the vibe, and I liked it. And then for her hometown looks, so she's from Norwich, and she chose to do like a football strip that she turned into a very sexy.
Yeah, it was strip. Like a football strip, as in like strips of fabric. Like,
oh my god, she was a football stripper.
I feel like that was definitely the vibe that she was trying to give us here, and she did.
I know, but like that did not click to me until this moment that she was meant to be giving you a stripper in a football strip.
Yeah, she came
like that's a play on words. Oh my god, intelligence.
She came in her yellow and green. She showed us so much.
I think she went as far as to say that she showed the girls what she could do and what she had for dinner.
And you know what? Like, I don't hate it.
I don't either. I think if the unfortunate thing is that she did have all of the tape showing in the back. If that hadn't been the case, I think she was probably going to be safe, and it probably would have been Sister up against Joe Black. But with a really obvious like. It's not even amateur. It just felt like it was maybe something she forgot about before she went on the runway, and then shortly after realized she was going to get read for it by Michelle, because Michelle's like a hawk with any flaw of your outfit. Michelle's seen it.
Yeah,
she saw it at the back of the stage.
But yeah, Bimini brought it to that lip sync. We had some.
Oh, she did. They lip synced to "Relax" by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. You know, a classic song. You'll have heard it quite a few times, I'm sure, in the clubs. Bimini gave sex appeal. She gave like a good range of abilities in the performance, whereas Joe Black kind of got a bit confusing at points, like not lip syncing words, pretending she was in a lift.
I think that's the ultimate, just like, you know, when sometimes you get yourself into a situation and you're like, how did I end up here? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is
this is me. Bet you wondered how I got here.
We lost Joe Black at the end of the episode. She went home.
She sashayed away. And then for episode 2, we have Rats the Musical as our main challenge. Now, this musical is a parody, obviously, of Cats, the live-action adaptation. They even have a line where they reference directly to the fact that it's a parody of Cats. Who was your standout in this performance? I want to know.
Many. There is... I'll do honourable mentions and then my fave, but honourable mentions. Week 1 didn't paint Ahura in a way that felt very like nice to me, and I didn't like relate to her at all. And then she sort of started opening up and like was willing to make a bit of a tit of herself, because I think she was paired with Bimini in this.
Yeah,
and they were both this kind of street rats, and that was
they were given street rats.
And so also like Bimini in this. Bimini, but I'm always going to say Bimini.
Incredible. It's the way that Bimini has like this extremely thick like East London accent.
Yeah.
It is so like gruff.
Yeah,
gruff and rough,
and
a little tough, and it's so fascinating to listen to her. And they both did really well on this.
Them as a duo, loved it. Stealing the show for me had to be Miss Tia Coffey with the ear on her back.
Tia Coffey was so funny in this. She played the lab rat called Specimen 1 or something, who did like her version, I guess, of in Cats when memory happens. She comes out as this rat that looks like it's been through hell and back, and makes this grand reveal of a human ear growing on its back.
She just crawled.
She crawls away at the very end of the stage. It's a really like show-stopping and scene-stealing performance. Yeah. I'd also love to give like a special shout out to Veronica, because I think that she won this week for the Rusical, and I'd say rightly so. She really embodied her character, because she was meant to be like the sex appeal rat. Yeah. She did, when she did that reveal though, to her bodysuit covered in like rats as pasties.
Yeah.
Hysterical. I could not stop laughing at that. And then for the end of this episode, the song, funnily enough, is from Cats. It's Memory, and the bottom 2 after Waters deemed, kind of underwhelming performances was Cherry Valentine and Taste.
It was just meh.
With Cherry Valentine.
Like, that lip sync was very... not...
They chose some interesting songs for the lip syncs, and I just think that this wasn't a song I wanted to see in a lip sync, but apparently Rue did.
It needs to be a specific type of queen to carry a ballad as a lip sync. And
not just a ballad, but a musical theatre ballad.
Natural Women in the US one.
Latrice Royale.
Latrice. Oh, like that, like Natural Woman lip sync that she did. Iconic. We all remember it. But
of course,
that was just kind of two young queens that could have done a lip sync that was really high energy and like rat tat 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 and given it. But when
they decided to put Memory from Cats,
it didn't allow them to thrive. Like,
yeah, I think sometimes they shoot themselves in the foot with these lip sync songs.
Yeah.
Then for episode 3, we have the challenge Who Wore It Best. So, I mean, we didn't really mention. So for episode 2, there was a mini challenge where they all had to vote on who. I think it was Baroness Basic, who ended up being Tia Coffey, which that's from all the other queens. They thought she was the most basic in appearance. The cockiest queen was Lawrence Chaney. The trade of the season, trade being just basically they're saying who's the hottest out of drag, went to Taste because obviously, yeah, none of us were shocked. We were like, we all voted Taste as well. Like our votes were just coming in the mail. And then, I think it was like the shadiest queen was given to Ahura, which I think we can all understand
she loved
why.
It though.
She's been quite vocal. Yeah, she was happy about it. Honest. She was like, "Thank you so much." Yeah.
She's just no bullshit.
No. Then for episode 3, so our mini challenge, this felt like when we talk about like the Olympics of drag being just Drag Race itself, this felt like the sports event from drag, and I got it. I was very like on the edge of my seat, like, oh my god, who's gonna go down in this limbo lore? And when it got to the final 2 between Veronica Green and Tace, using the side. Oh, it was Taste, sorry. Using the sides of their ankles to try and go on that bottom one. They both fail, so they both win.
I suggest you Drag Race canon. Google this clip somehow because
it's a lot to watch. It's just very funny.
Oh, I remember I was sat there eating my like Friday morning pain au chocolat. You know, like I had pastry all over my face, and watching them try and like fit under this tiny little gap, I was like, not today.
Not today. I feel like the unfortunate thing about us recapping this is that we're not even able to mention just all of the subtle bits of humor that come in this show with just facial expressions alone. Yeah. So please, if you are on the fence about watching it, I really recommend it. Streaming now on BBC Three. Sponsor us. For this episode, the queens picked a partner to team up with.
So if each team was given a box that was a specific colour with material in it.
Uh-huh.
And then they both had to make an outfit from that material.
Said material, yes.
Basically, what came to fruition was that in these pairs, one queen would be in the top and one queen would be put straight to the bottom.
Which, considering they picked their friend in the competition, it was a little interesting that they had to go up against each other. Yeah, just a bit of that's some of the shady choices they make on Drag Race.
But because of that, we had some like interesting situations happen where we had teams where both of them were quite strong, but one of them got put in the bottom.
Yeah,
but equally like teams where like both of them were kind of crappy, but one person coasted through because
they had to.
Someone
had to win out of that duo. So I mean, we'll start with as one of the winners of the challenge. I think Veronica was the first to pick. So she, I think it makes sense when you see her full name written out. Her name is Veronica Green, so she chose the green box. But when she was picking this outfit, I could not, for the life of me, imagine out of all the options they had, which was black, pink, blue, and green, and you chose and gold. Sorry, and gold. Gold as well, and you chose green. Like, it's just even the best situation of wearing a nice green outfit, I feel like green's still not the color that people are like, oh, but how elegant.
Veronica can sew, and that was
yes. So she turned it. She turned it out. Her outfit is very like a 2-piece. She looks, and I mean this with the most love possible, she looks like she's on like the red carpet at like a movie festival, like maybe like the MTV Movie Awards in like the early 2000s. Like, that's what I get from this. I feel like it's very starlet who's in Miami giving a 2-piece, but it's still a dress.
Because she lined it. That was like this. What could have, for someone that can't sew, I know a bit
about how the process goes.
And if she hadn't lined it, it would have just sort of wafted.
Yes.
And not in a
kind
of cheap way. Whereas because she's lined it also gives it that like pop of colour, and that it's not just dark green underneath as well.
It's also lime.
It gives like dimension to it, and she's thought about it. And that's something that someone with a designer mindset would have thought of, whereas there are queens that maybe don't have that experience and don't have that eye and know how to communicate to a designer what they want like a concept, but they don't know how to make that a reality in dress form, and that's what this this challenge sort of really brought out, I think.
And so she was partnered up with Tia Coffey, who, I mean, she's been getting read a little bit for her runway looks for the past like couple of weeks on the show. So when she came out in this outfit, do you know, she looks like she belongs in like Greece.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
I don't think it's the worst outfit that, out of all the people that have ever showed up on a Drag Race runway, we saw the worst outfit just this past season on the US version with
all the paper bags.
The paper bag look from Lalaurie. Laurie's look with the paper bags is the most basic thing that's ever appeared. So when you compare it to that, it's not the worst thing.
No,
however, does that make this good?
Why did her brain go, I'm gonna serve Madonna in the Garden of Eden?
I think it's just an unfortunate situation because I feel like this outfit would have looked nicer in a different color.
Yeah, and that's, you know what I mean? Because there are other contestants that I think, especially Tace, got by on this because
they had a nice color.
They had
and
black.
Good material. I mean, yeah, we'll move on to Tace. With Tace and Ahura, they were the next. I mean, Tace got to pick the next outfit, and she immediately chose black because who would not choose black in a runway creative challenge? Like, black can just look nice naturally because it's naturally appealing. But she unfortunately had the situation where she used what seems to be the same hair from like her first runway, with the hometown look with the horns. But she did style it differently with all the rings and stuff. But it's very like a tattered, high fashion, put together jacket piece with like all of her legs just hanging out.
Yeah, she knew what her assets were, and she
did,
it.
and she played to it. I still think that, I mean, we talked about it, how some queens ended up in the bottom just because that's how the show had to go. But Tace to me had maybe the best looking outfit of all, like almost everyone on the runway. I think it just that looks like something you'd see on a runway, and I think that's kind of the point of a who wore it best challenge, is who made an outfit that looks runway ready.
Yeah,
but maybe that's.
No, I do just think that if Tace had been given any other box, like if Tace had been given that green box, she'd have been stuffed.
Yeah, but she didn't, because she won, and she chose black, because Veronica Green took green out of the equation.
Yeah.
So Ahura's outfit, Ahura talks briefly about I think being blacklisted by the fashion community, which just because she does drag, which is an interesting discussion point because I don't think you hear much about this anyhow. I didn't know anything about this happening, but I'd say her it's very sparkly black. She's got a lovely beret. She's got a thing for berets. She wears them quite often in the show, even out of drag.
Like this outfit. I thought
it
was very.
It's very cute. The only thing I don't love is I don't know what happened. No, the Sherwig's amazing. Do not try and insult the Sherwig. The Sherwig's giving like shower needles in the poodle challenge. It's so like that's what this outfit is to me. It's like an elevated version of that outfit from Shower Needles.
Okay.
But it's the like leg warmer type, like from the knee down, the slight change in fabric. It doesn't look black, like it doesn't read black to me. So I get it. I think she's trying to add some layers to her outfit, so it's not just a black cat suit. But not personally, that's not my favorite touch, and I think that's probably why she didn't end up winning the week. And then we'll go to the gold box. So the gold box was given to both of the Scottish queens, Lawrence Chaney and Ellie Diamond.
Yes.
And Lawrence Chaney came out in what I can only describe as like a sexy, like Golden Girls type, just a lovely gown with like a slight difference in the top half that really draws contrast to the way that it's shaped around her body. Because Lauren's pads very well, like padding. Her padding it creates this lovely curvaceous figure, and she knows how to dress her body, which is very apparent, and it's why she ends up winning this week. And then on the other hand, Ellie Diamond came out in like a bodysuit that's they say Marie Antoinette. I don't personally see Marie Antoinette. This in the nicest way possible.
If she wasn't wearing that hair, we wouldn't be.
Mm-hmm. You wouldn't really get it.
That reference, yeah.
She looks like, and I know we've talked about Panto a lot already, and I've been saying it quite a few times, but it's like in a very positive way. This one, it's like a very high class version of a Panto. She looks like the treasure girl. I don't know how best to describe it. But she ends up in the bottom purely for the same reason that Taste did. They're both really well done. Unfortunately, they were just outshined by their partner.
Yeah.
And then we'll come to the two. We're starting to get to the rougher
I don't want
to
talk about Ginny and Sister. Like, they were so boring.
Both of them did not turn a nice outfit out.
Like, Sister got through purely because Ginny's was
her
worse.
makeup was very Juno Birch. Like, I don't know if you know much about Juno Birch. She's another UK drag queen, very famous. She does this. She does like some sculptures as well that look a lot like her, and she very often is painting her skin like blues, light greens, and all this stuff. So she looks very like Juno Birch. But I'd say for the most part, I don't like the way that there's like this weird circle cut out of the outfit. I think that otherwise the bottom half looks really well done to me. I think that's probably why she got the saving grace in the group. And Ginny Lemon was given a challenge this week by RuPaul to try and be a little bit sexier. But unfortunately, Ginny only really knew how to make like a pillowcase tube dress that she put around these a new breastplate that she was wearing, and she came out with some lovely long hair. And
she did some pads for the first time as well.
She did. I think unfortunately it was just this wasn't a very nice look, but I think because she took Rue's advice, that's why she ended up being safe.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly we have Bimini Bombulash, and this is very Vivienne Westwood to me. It's a little bit Vivienne Westwood, but then also some Alexander McQueen reference is also like dashed in there, and she's in this like lovely navy blue outfit that's got some. I think it's like a floral mesh overlay on the dress and a sleeve as well. She looked amazing to me.
She's carried it really nicely throughout the outfit, and I think this is, as much as Bimini is in her personality quite like rough and ready, and
her dress style's prim and proper. She's rough and ready in personality,
but prim and moments, proper. But then like the fact that she can do stuff like this as well, like what a versatile queen, and that's what this show is all about. Yeah, it's the versatility
that she presents.
Yeah,
100%. I couldn't agree more. And then lastly, Estina Mandela. Now we talked about this like quite a bit before because we weren't sure if we were going to do like a mid-season recap at all, but we chose to do one anyway. So she went for an anime schoolgirl type aesthetic, but ended up looking more like an ice skater, which
I just don't think she did anything big enough. Like,
yeah, she went safe. I think she tried to play safe because maybe she knew how to make one thing and thought, I'll just go with this. And even in the walkthrough, when RuPaul seemed to be really disinterested in the idea, she just stuck with her guns, and I think that's why she ended up going home this episode to
the thing is,
Tia Coffee and a very passionate lip sync to Dua Lipa's Don't Start Now.
That was a good one. I said it about 100 times to you, but I love the top that Estina made for this, like the velvet long sleeved royal blue number, and I would like to have it if it's up for grabs. But they did I just thought it was a bit unnecessary that they made some comments about the broadness of her shoulders.
Yeah, there's some comments that come out these days in Drag Race that you can have to take a moment and go, are they really talking about someone's shoulders like this as though that should be...
Because it is a man at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah. I think, unfortunately, they seem to hold on to some values in Drag Race a bit more than others.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to the illusion, they really want to see the proportions correct, and they want to see that, like, figure portrayed in the outfit. I think that's why queens like Lawrence Chaney, who go out of their way to create a silhouette, they get the praise. Whereas in this situation, there's criticism given to Estina because she didn't give a silhouette. She's just relying on that body, which is a common critique in the Drag Race franchise. Episode after, we go in the challenge this week. The main challenge is called Morning Glory. It's a live performance of an improv morning talk show.
Yeah, we had Lorraine as a guest.
Lorraine Kelly.
I don't know if we mentioned, actually, we have recurring guest judges on.
Oh yeah, there's always a guest judge.
Like it always goes between like either Graham Norton and or Alan Carr, and then a guest judge. A
guest judge as well. Yeah.
This week we had Lorraine from.
Yeah, so she came in to direct the improv morning talk show because obviously that's what she's specialised in. We have a very awkward, but still funny. The mini challenge is like a British Bake Off presentation of a cake that you're to try and make funny. I think the only one that really stands out to me was Bimini giving like a Brexit bun to a Belgian bun has been changed into a Brexit bun. I think that was just really funny the way she went about it. For the challenge, they're split off mostly into duos with the exception of Ginny, who ends up being a solo performer for this.
And they all take different segments.
The standouts for this one for me, I would say Bimini was a clear standout. I thought she was so entertaining. She was on time. She had all the lines. Ahura was so funny doing like an Essex saleswoman on the TV.
I think she absolutely stole
And then Lawrence Chaney as well.
And Lawrence, yeah.
I thought she was really funny as well. I think it was just unfortunate that her runway didn't quite meet what Lawrence brought to the table this week.
Yeah. No, Lawrence
Chaney was doing like a dragony aunt. So like your agony aunt. She's giving you the advice on your situation.
Because it was kind of like a little bit of an improv moment. Like it was partially scripted, partially teleprompted. But it was.
I think it depended on the role that you were given, because it seemed as though Bimini and Tace had a full teleprompter to read off of, but then
they had improv given for bits. Like there was bits on the teleprompt that said in brackets like improv.
I didn't even pick up on that. Okay,
yeah, so like everyone had to do some sort of
it's a good mix. Fascinating. Okay, so the people that didn't do so well in this challenge, Veronica Green immediately knew she didn't do well because she was meant to be portraying a goth who was like making a cake or like an anti-birthday cake, and it seemed to drone on like one note for quite a while, and then Sister was there.
I just don't think she like made a character. I don't think they made a character at all. They were just like, we'll just wear black and not show emotion, but they didn't actually think about how to make that funny or like even like gothic in any way, because it's like they were just tried to do this whole like mute low energy goth thing, whereas like you have people like Noel Fielding who's like hysterical and like uses his like goth-isms as a tool for his comedy.
Yeah, but they didn't do that in this challenge, and that was what. And then, unfortunately, I mean, I would also like to point out Ellie Diamond didn't do incredible in this either, but she was just meh. She was there. But then, unfortunately, Ginny Lemon she was the weather lady who did not talk once about the weather and was just rather making a lot of to the outer effects where they were trying to show weather affecting her delivery.
So the energy the vibe that I got from Ginny's performance was the same critique that Vanjie got all the time, which was that she was coming at it at level 100 and there was nowhere to go from there.
Yeah, but I think it was that even Vanjie was able to like show like a bit, like she was able to find peaks and valleys, but Ginny was just at 100 the whole time.
Because that was definitely like critique that she got.
Oh, to begin with, yeah.
Yeah.
So the way that the episode works itself out is that Sister and Ginny Lemon end up in the bottom. They're lip syncing to "You Keep Me Hanging On" by Kim Wilde, and for the first time in Drag Race history, a queen decides to walk off the stage with a good old laugh and just eliminate herself from the competition. And that's what Ginny Lemon.
Ben de la Creme doing a similar thing.
Yeah, but she decided to eliminate herself. Like, I mean, in the midst of a lip sync. This is the first time I think anyone's ever walked off the show in the middle of a song, whereas she just wrote her name in white out. But yeah, so this was both parts iconic, and you kind of question like, oh, well, what was the point in coming on the show? But at the same time, I think that the iconicness of just, you could tell there was no like disrespect intended on leaving the show. It was just a matter of, I've done what I came here to do, and I think I'm over it.
Her body and her soul was just tired. Like, because this was the episode where we found out about her diagnosis.
Her fibromyalgia.
I think she was like, my body and my like,
I'm knackered.
I've done what I came here to do, and I'll just like.
And I think she left her mark on the show.
Leave gracefully.
I think she's very well loved, and she shared a good part of her story, and I think that's the important takeaway of this. Yeah, but at the end of this episode, the queens are then informed that filming will cease immediately whilst this was being recorded at the time of the first pandemic hitting. So at that point, they were all sent home because, back in the day, so it sounded. No, but they were sent home because obviously they couldn't continue filming the show. So when we move into the episode that just aired yesterday for us at this point of recording, it had been 7 months since they had last been on set for Drag Race, and a lot of time had passed, and they were picking right back up from where they started, with the episode being about RuPaul's, as they call it, a fun parody of Eurovision.
Yeah, which I love because they have obviously Graham Norton on as a co-host.
Yeah, who does the hosting for Eurovision, I'm told. I'm not huge on Eurovision myself, so this was a fascinating little journey into it. One thing to mention in this is that Veronica Green unfortunately tested positive for coronavirus at the time of recording, so she was removed from the series with an open invitation to return for the next time that they start filming a UK series. Yeah. And in her place, they gave the queens the option to vote one contestant back into the show, and with an overwhelming majority, Joe Black ended up coming back into the competition after not having been able to show as much, being the first queen to go home.
Interesting re-entry. But I think it was because I would have thought that they would maybe have re-entered like Cherry Valentine, because she...
Fascinating.
I don't think they held her...
I would have thought Estina.
What I was going to say, because I think if this had been on America, right?
Yeah.
They would probably vote in the person that they see as least competition, and I don't think they saw Cherry as like
as competition. I suppose maybe.
But they voted in Joe because of the reputation, and then Estina also got votes because of her alliance, like her friendships and stuff.
Yeah. Well, the East London queens wanted to bring her back, and also I think that, you know, if you won the first challenge, maybe you, part of you that thinks she should return. But I suppose it depended on what they thought, and in the end of the day, they wanted to see more of Joe Black, so that's what they chose. And the challenge is a 4v4, 2 teams going up, very reminiscent of the Frock Destroyers from season 1 that I'm sure quite a lot of people ended up seeing whether they wanted to or not.
An absolute tune.
They performed to the created track that they write their own verse for, called Ding Dang Dong.
I have no idea what the song was called.
Oh, it's called... Sorry, no, the song's called UK Hun. Like, UK
Hun, yeah. The thing is, like, this year's song was atrocious. I hated it. Whereas, like, last year, I Want to Break Up, Bye Bye, lives in my head.
Fun, but they're just different tracks altogether.
I know, but, like, they just didn't give it energy. Oh, I just hate... Like, I know that's just me and my preferences.
I thought that, I mean, so when it comes to the performances, I would say, I mean, so there was 2 teams. The United King Dolls, which was full of Lawrence Chaney, Bimini Bombulash, Ahura, and Tace. And I think that they stole this competition by far. And then the other team... Versus, yeah, they were very entertaining. And then Joe Black was another captain who ended up choosing to be on her team. Tia Coffey, Ellie Diamond, and Sister They made a lot of references to about her getting work done.
Yeah.
Like, they kept talking about it, and you're almost like, okay, we get it. Like, you don't need to show it again. We understand. She's had work done. But a lot of the queens did in the 7-month gap.
Have an amount of at least Botox.
And I'm intrigued because with the 7-month break that they had in between, it's clear that they were able to prepare more things for the show. So I'm interested to see what the 7 months has done for these queens to further elevate what they're going to present.
I found it this week quite refreshing because it had that sort of element of like time has passed, and it brought it was almost like a fresh start, but like midway through the season, and because it doesn't have that sort of mid-season slump.
Yeah, sometimes there is a slump in the season in the middle.
Very fun. And the performances...
on that team.
It was very obvious from the performances alone.
Yeah.
How it was going to go down. And we knew... like the UK dolls,
Oh, the UK United King dolls, and then the banana
dramas. Yeah, so like the United King dolls were clearly going to win, purely based on like the judges' facial expressions whilst watching.
Yeah, there was enjoyment during one, and then almost disgust in the other.
But it was almost like watching like a school challenge show where you're like, you just want someone to get through it. For their own sake. You're just... it felt like the judges were just like, right, just keep going. Just like...
Ellie Diamond did want to make the routine better than what it was. I remember that being an edit they showed. And then unfortunately, Joe Black was just like... Joe Black and Sister didn't appear to be dancers, so they just weren't with it at all, which... That's where I think the problem came for me.
But like, then Lawrence wasn't a dancer, but then committed to learning the dance.
Agreed to learn the dance because that's what Taste and everyone else was planning to do for the performance. I think that was just the difference. That is the difference between, being a candidate for next. Yeah, like to be a winner and to just sort of accept your fate. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, with the end of these results, after we've gone through our runway, we've had a couple similar looks on the runway, and there's a bit of drama surrounding that. But we get to our eventual lip sync, which is, well, we should probably mention first that RuPaul has officially declared that H&M deserves no sales.
As we were saying earlier in the podcast, there's a way to shop off the rack and elevate it in a way that is acceptable to be worn on RuPaul's Drag Race. And there is just wearing a dress that you bought on H&M. And I was watching it and my little brother was in the same room. And when Joe did the sort of like whispers past his hand at RuPaul, like, it's from H&M, because I think Michelle says something about, she could have picked up something like that at Primark. And then Joe whispers, it's H&M. Like, my little brother turned around to me and went, I know nothing about this show and I know that he shouldn't have said that. And, like... I
think it came across not the type of humorous approach that Joe was probably hoping for, and rather it just came across like, oh, I don't care that I'm wearing something off the rack for your performance. Like, I'm openly going to laugh about it in front of everyone that's taking this quite seriously.
I don't think it was meant to be disrespectful in any way.
No, I don't think so either. I think
it
was just unfortunate because, for the past 7 months, like, drag has ceased to exist practically from the traditional sense, and a lot of queens haven't been able to work. So I think from that standpoint, it was, so you've been given another opportunity, like a blessing here, and you're kind of wasting the opportunity with an H&M dress for your challenge look, which I'm not saying everything that they have to bring to the show's meant to be tailored and made by a seamstress, but I think that by this point, I think it's, they've established what the expectations are for Drag Race, and I think that it's just unfortunate the way the cards played out,
Yeah, I just don't think it played out. And then, like, Rue, after the moment, did say at one, like, to the judges after the girls had left, like...
Yeah, she apologised for being so stern, but in some ways you can't tell if that's, like, a sincere I'm sorry, or if that's... You looked like a monster, RuPaul. You might want to apologise so that the viewers don't hate you. I can never quite tell where RuPaul, the drag queen, hosting like a huge television series that's won Emmys and whatnot, like where that like persona ends and where like the RuPaul that's wanting this like critical attention and fame is like begins. I feel like it's kind of like looking at the man behind the curtain. Sometimes you never know what one you're looking at.
Yeah, I think they're so like intertwined, especially because you don't really see Rue in drag other than when she's sat behind the desk. Like,
yes, unless she's been paid, she's not going to dress in drag. And so it ends up being that Tia Coffee, unfortunately, again has another kind of whack runway. But she promises that what she's got to bring
frumpy. It was
following will be best. It was very frumpy. That was the unfortunate part. And I think the general idea, I think, is nice to take something like an ice cream cone and turn yourself into. I think the idea was there, and she definitely put some thought in. I just think that it was an unfortunate showing for her. And so she ends up lip syncing against Joe Black, and Joe Black is eliminated again. They lip sync to Don't Leave Me This Way by the Communards. I think it was the right elimination again. It's a shame because you kind of just wonder, would the outcome have been the same if Estina came back? Or could you imagine Estina or Cherry in this challenge? I feel like they would have maybe stepped up.
I think Estina would have got it.
Been quite well.
Because she was a dancer.
First. Yeah. But she let us know.
I just don't think that Joe has I'm going to say attitude, but I don't mean this in a like, you don't have the right attitude. I just don't think she has like the attitude for competition.
Yeah, I think that the way that everything played out, it was just unfortunate that the judges maybe weren't getting what they wanted from Joe, and Joe wasn't giving the judges what they wanted either, so it just worked out that...
Like, Drag Race is such a good way for queens to find a stronger sense of self and a sense of, like, this is what I'm about. And the queens that don't tend to thrive as well can sometimes be queens that are quite well established.
Outside of the show.
And have a way that they do things that suits them and works for them, but doesn't necessarily work for the show. And that's like, as you say, like your Jenny Lemons and perhaps Joe as well. Yeah. And even you can think back to other people as well. Like, but overall, I think this is a very interesting year. I'm super excited because I have genuinely no idea who's going to win this year at all.
No, I don't think that. I mean, there is if we go by just like the badge tracker, it seems Lawrence Chaney's the one with the cards in their favor, but you can never be sure with this show. No. They will eliminate a winner in a heartbeat if they're not up to standard.
If you have a bad week,
So I think that this is, for me, it's the more entertaining of the two seasons out of the UK so far, but I'd say that this has really helped like bring a breath of fresh air to the Drag Race franchise. And it's clear that this show does something to make RuPaul want to host it, because RuPaul only hosts this show and the US version. Those are the only two versions of Drag Race that RuPaul will personally be part of and host. So I think that there's a reason for that, and these queens definitely live up to it. But we'd like to thank you so much for joining us here today. We hope that for any of you that might be interested in drag, that this was a fun listen, and
even
that
if you're not,
maybe we've helped spark a little bit of an interest for you to go and look at some of it yourself. But thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. If you have enjoyed this episode of the It's Not Always Dark podcast, why don't you, like, especially because this has been something a bit different, if you've got a little friend that maybe enjoys Drag Race, perhaps like pass it on to them so that they can join in the conversation. Maybe just like text them the link, DM them the link.
Just text.
We have loved having you. We always do.
We always do. You're such a good guest.
I hope you've enjoyed our company and you take care. And we look forward to seeing you next week for something else.
Something new. Something fun.